Well, well, well. You think you can just walk in here and just take my magic list? How dare you? Get the heck out of here. This is my magic list, son. Wait, come back. No, I'm joking. Okay, you can have it. This is my Magnum Quest magic list. I'll go over all of the heroes that I use in this magic list. Feel free to take it and use it for yourself. It's pretty much the standard cookie cutter magic list, I believe. Until there's more heroes in the game, everybody's going to have a magic list that looks somewhat similar to this. Maybe you'll swap out a few heroes here and there, maybe one or two heroes other than everything else that's on this list, but this is pretty much the standard, I believe. So I'll go over all of these heroes and explain why I chose them. First of all, we've got Arthur, Ecra, Fang, Cynia, and Auric in the Fortress faction magic list. Arthur is selected there because he's just the best healer in the game and he provides really good support by mitigating enemy damage with his shields. He's very tanky on top of that as well. You put him in the front line, he tanks, he mitigates enemy damage, he provides heals for your team. He can increase the survivability of your team very much, so he's got to be on the magic list for sure. He's one of the top characters in the game. Ekra is a very, very tanky caster DPS who deals super high single target and AoE damage. You can put her on the front line or on the back line, so she's definitely got to be in the magic list. We've got Fang here, who's probably the best boss DPS in the entire game. You really make use of him in the later game, more so than in the early game. In the early game, he's just going to die pretty much all of the time, but I've got him on there because in the late game, he's going to really pull through for boss fights. Cynia is a situational support who's very, very good in certain situations. She'll be the key to winning certain stages in battle mode. So I've got her in there as well. And then Auric is a really good support and DPS because he provides a lot of control and he just does good range DPS. You put him in the back line in the right fight and he can also be one of your key players in some battles. Moving on to the Wild faction, first of all, of course, we have the King of Magnum Quest himself, Eris. He's pretty much S tier at everything, all boss fights, all game modes pretty much. So he does super high damage, AoE damage even, and has really good survivability with his invulnerability and leech at higher levels even. So of course he's on the magic list, we all know that. Then we have Gila, Naomi, Issy, and Harry. Harry being maybe the best tank in the game, at least an S tier tank. You can pretty much use him in all situations. I've been using him in every single fight ever since I got him. I've barely ever swapped him out, but sometimes I have, but pretty much I've used him in almost every fight. He heals himself and he just has super high survivability. He's really, really good. Then we have Issy, who's a AoE damage dealer. She poisons enemies and does really good AoE damage. You're definitely going to want her on your magic list. Naomi is a situational support similar to Cynia, but in a different way. Naomi provides, she can dispel enemy debuffs and dispel enemy buffs. So she's really great in certain situations. You're not going to make use of her all the time, but you definitely want her on the magic list. Gila is just a really good DPS. You'll want to use Gila. So you got to have her on the magic list too. Um, you might want Hista, you might want Gaia. Don't put Gaia on your magic list because Gaia's going to lose effectiveness over time. But you could swap in Hista for Naomi possibly because Naomi is going to be she's going to get the job done without having stars. You don't need stars on Naomi for her to be able to use her ultimate and dispel enemy debuffs and buffs. So you could swap out Naomi for Hista. Hista's a good damage dealer. That's up to you. Or Rickers is a really good tank if you really need a tank and you want a wild tank. But we've got Harry for our wild tank. You should prefer Harry as a tank if you're going for a wild tank, choose Harry over Rickers, but Rickers is really good also. And then moving on to the fortress, or not fortress, forest faction, we have Fair. He's a really good tank in certain situations. By himself, he's not actually that good of a tank, but when you use him in conjunction with Eris and Gaia do concentrated AoE damage, which synergizes very well with Fair's pull, so he's got to be on the magic list. You definitely will make use of Fair quite often during many different stages in the game. Fi is one of the best damage dealers in the game, especially because he provides a haste buff for the entire allied team. Oshish is one of the best supports in the game, along with Ione. These are two of the best supports in the game because of their control effects. if you're going to remove anybody from your magic list, like for example, you may want to swap in Cyan for somebody, and if you're going to do that, I would recommend taking out either Osish or Aluin. Aluin in the late game becomes a very, very good healer, a very good support, so you'll probably want her, and you'll definitely want Ione. Ione is in like 90% of teams, and she's just very good. Plus, you probably won't need multiple control characters, you know. So if you're really gonna swap anybody out for Cyan, because Cyan is a good option, you can swap out Osish, I would recommend, and maybe Aluin, one of those. But I would probably recommend Osish over Aluin, because Aluin is a very good healer late game, like I said. So that is the Forest magic list, and then we have the Shadow magic list down here at the bottom, the last one. And to start that off, we have Durla, who is a very good AoE damage dealer. You can make use of Durla in certain situations with certain compositions. Just does good AoE damage. Then we have Alden, who is one of the best, maybe even the best tank in the game. And then Julian is also a tank. Herlotta is a damage dealer who can penetrate the enemy back line. You'll use her in certain situations. If you know how to use her and you use her at the right time, she'll be the key to some stages. And Muralith is just thrown in there because there's not really any better options, really. Muralith isn't that great. She can be good, but she's really more of like a B tier hero. Not too great. There's just not a lot of great options in the Shadow faction. So we threw Muralith in there, but if you really want one of the other ones, you can swap Muralith out for anybody you want. I would recommend Muralith instead of all of these other ones, but that's up to you. So that's my magic list, guys. If you enjoy this content, consider liking, subscribing, and leave a nice comment if you will. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this was useful for you guys. Peace.